July 2, 1937. A voice flickers across the vast emptiness of the Pacific Ocean. We are on the line 157, 337. We are running on line north and south. And then nothing. No reply. No rescue. No wreckage. Amelia Earhart, one of the most celebrated aviators in human history, had vanished into thin air. No radar. No satellites. Just wind, wave, and a mystery that would transcend time. But before she became a legend lost to the sea, she was something even more remarkable, a woman who refused to be defined by gravity. Born on July 24, 1897, in the quiet town of Atchison, Kansas, Amelia Mary Earhart was no ordinary girl. She climbed trees, hunted rats with a rifle, built sled ramps off rooftops, and kept a scrapbook of women who defied expectations. Lawyers, engineers, explorers. From the very beginning, Amelia was writing her own script. She didn't dream of castles. She dreamed of clouds. Her childhood was one of contrast. Her father, Edwin, a railroad lawyer, struggled with alcoholism. Her mother, Amy, came from affluence but raised her daughters to reject traditional femininity. That foundation, the freedom to think independently, would fuel everything Amelia later stood for. Where other children feared heights, Amelia looked up and saw possibility. By 1917, the world was engulfed in war. Earhart moved to Toronto, where she trained and served as a Red Cross nurse's aide. There, among the wounded soldiers and groaning gurneys, something unexpected happened. One day, a stunt pilot soared above the field, looping through the gray Canadian sky. Amelia paused, eyes locked on the engine's roar. Something stirred. She wouldn't pilot a plane for another 3 years. But in that moment, something was born. A quiet obsession. In 1920, at a Southern California airfield, Amelia took a 10-minute plane ride that changed her life. She said, "As soon as we left the ground, I knew I had to fly." She worked odd jobs, photographer, truck driver, stenographer, to afford lessons. Her first instructor was Nita Snook, one of the few female pilots of the time. In 1921, Amelia purchased her own plane, a bright yellow Kinner Airster she named the Canary. A year later, she earned her pilot's license. She was the 16th woman in the United States to do so. The sky was no longer a ceiling, it was an invitation. In 1928, George Putnam, publisher, promoter, and future husband, invited Amelia to join a transatlantic flight organized by aviation tycoon Amy Guest. Amelia wouldn't pilot the plane, but she would become the face of the mission. The flight succeeded, and Amelia, humble but eager, told the press, "Stultz did all the flying. I was just baggage like a sack of potatoes. Maybe someday I'll try it alone." That someday came quickly. On May 20, 1932, 5 years to the day after Charles Lindbergh's flight, Amelia took off from Harbor Grace, Newfoundland, alone. 15 hours later, battered by ice, storms, and exhaustion, she landed in a farmer's field in Northern Ireland. She had done it. First woman to fly solo across the Atlantic. She was awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross by President Hoover and became a symbol of progress and courage across the globe. But Amelia didn't rest. She flew from Honolulu to California. She broke altitude records. She spoke at rallies, championed equal rights, and helped found the 99s, an international organization for female aviators. For Amelia, flight wasn't just motion, it was message. By 1936, Amelia was already a legend. But there was one final record to break, the longest flight around the world, following the equator. Her aircraft, the Lockheed Electra 10E, a sleek, silver twin engine designed for endurance. Her navigator, Fred Noonan, a skilled former Pan Am captain. They departed from Oakland in March 1937 but suffered a mechanical failure during the first attempt. Amelia, undeterred, reorganized. In June, she tried again. From Miami, the Electra soared across South America, Africa, the Middle East, and Southeast Asia. By the end of June, they had reached New Guinea. They had covered 22,000 miles. Only 7,000 remained, all of it over the Pacific. Their next stop, Howland Island, a tiny, remote spit of land barely a mile wide. They never made it. July 2, 1937. Somewhere over the Pacific, Amelia's voice faded into the airwaves. The world listened, and then she was gone. No crash, no debris, no goodbyes, just a legend swallowed by sky and sea. What followed would become the most enduring mystery in aviation history. And it all began here with a girl from Kansas and the dream of touching the clouds. July 2, 1937. Dawn broke over New Guinea. The sky was clear. The sun was rising. In the distance, the Lockheed Electra stood poised on the dusty airstrip, its fuselage gleaming silver against the orange horizon. Amelia Earhart, dressed in slacks and a leather jacket, climbed into the cockpit. Beside her, Fred Noonan, precise and composed, carried charts and navigational tools. Their next destination, Howland Island, a tiny coral atoll just 556 miles away, a speck in the vastness of the Pacific Ocean. They never arrived. The journey from to Howland was a logistical nightmare. Amelia and Noonan would fly over open ocean with no visible landmarks and no GPS. They'd rely solely on celestial navigation and two-way radio signals from the U.S. Coast Guard cutter Itasca stationed near Howland. The Electra was packed with 100 gallons of fuel, its maximum capacity. Every extra pound had been calculated. The crew was already fatigued from weeks of flying. To make matters worse, the Electra's radio antenna had sustained damage earlier in the trip and may not have been functioning properly. They were flying blind across an ocean with the world watching. The Electra took off at 00 GMT. From the outset, Itasca struggled to maintain stable contact with the aircraft. At 7:42 a.m., Itasca received the most haunting message. "We must be on you but cannot see you. Gas is running low." The ship sent repeated replies, but Amelia never seemed to hear them. At 8:43 a.m., a final message crackled in. "We are on the line 157, 337. We are running on line north and south." After that, nothing. The airwaves fell silent. In that instant, Amelia Earhart and Fred Noonan disappeared, without a trace. The U.S. Navy and Coast Guard launched an unprecedented search. Battleships, submarines, aircraft. They covered over 250 square miles of ocean. Howland Island was checked. Baker Island. Endless sea. No wreckage. No oil slick. No sign of life. President Roosevelt authorized additional naval support. Families waited by the radio. The world held its breath. After 2 weeks, the search was called off. Amelia Earhart was declared lost at sea. With no evidence, the mystery only deepened. Theories blossomed, from the practical to the bizarre. Theory 1. Crashed and sank. The simplest explanation. The Electra ran out of fuel and plunged into the Pacific. Theory 2. Nikumaroro castaway. For 100 miles southeast of Howland lies a remote coral atoll. In 1940, bones, a woman's shoe, and a sextant box were found. Could Amelia have landed there and died waiting for rescue? Theory 3. Captured by the Japanese. Some believe Earhart and Noonan veered north and were captured by the Japanese on the Marshall Islands, accused of espionage. Witnesses decades later claimed to have seen a white woman in custody. Theory 4. Faked her death. The most outlandish theory posits that Amelia assumed a new identity and lived in secret. No theory is without its flaws. No answer fully satisfies. In a world hungry for certainty, Earhart's disappearance has become legend precisely because it lacks one. Modern searches have used sonar, drones, deep-sea robots, and even bone-sniffing dogs on Nikumaroro. Expeditions by the International Group for Historic Aircraft Recovery (TIRE) have uncovered clues, but never a smoking gun. In 2018, forensic reanalysis of the Nikumaroro bones suggested a 99% match with Earhart's body proportions. Still, debate rages. A 2021 sonar scan detected an anomaly deep off Nikumaroro's reef slope, but storms delayed further investigation. We are closer than ever, and yet the mystery endures. Despite her vanishing, Amelia Earhart's legacy didn't fade. Schools bear her name. Scholarships, space programs, streets, and statues honor her. She became more than an aviator. She became a symbol of courage, independence, and possibility. Her image flies on stamps, posters, murals. She's appeared in fiction, film, and folklore. Her message, to dream, to dare, to defy, has only grown louder with time. Amelia Earhart didn't disappear. She took flight into history. The clouds closed in. The sea was still. And somewhere, across the static of time, a voice still echoes. We are on the line, and we, searching, hoping, are still listening. For decades, Amelia Earhart's disappearance has lingered like an unsolved riddle in the collective human psyche. But this is not a tale merely lost to history. It's a living puzzle, a labyrinth of clues, claims, and controversy. The crash and sink hypothesis remains the default explanation. After exhausting fuel, Earhart and Noonan may have ditched the Electra somewhere near Howland Island. The aircraft likely sank rapidly into the abyssal Pacific, settling miles beneath the waves. Oceanographer Robert Ballard, famed for discovering the Titanic, led a 2019 expedition to search Earhart's projected crash zone. Using remotely operated vehicles and sonar mapping, Ballard's team scoured the seafloor near Nikumaroro, but found no trace of the Electra. If it's down there, we'll find it. But this is one of the most remote, unforgiving stretches of ocean in the world. The challenge? The Pacific is vast, deep, and hides its secrets well. 400 miles southeast of Howland lies Nikumaroro, an uninhabited coral atoll. In 1940, British colonial officer Gerald Gallagher discovered partial human remains and relics. A woman's shoe, a sextant box, and improvised tools. He radioed his findings to colonial administrators. The bones were sent to Fiji for analysis and later lost. TIRE, the International Group for Historic Aircraft Recovery, has led numerous expeditions to Nikumaroro, unearthing evidence suggesting a castaway once lived and died there. Fragments of makeup jars, aircraft aluminum, and 1930s-era artifacts have been found. Forensic anthropologist Richard Jantz reanalyzed photographs and measurements of the missing bones in 2018, concluding they were consistent with Earhart's body size and proportions. There is a very high probability that those bones belonged to Amelia Earhart. Still, the evidence is circumstantial. The Electra has never been located near the island. One of the most persistent and controversial theories. Amelia and Fred were captured by the Japanese after veering far off course. Reports suggest that they crash-landed on Mealy Atoll in the Marshall Islands, then under Japanese control. Local witnesses decades later described a white woman and man being taken by Japanese forces. A 1937 photo discovered in the U.S. National Archives shows a woman resembling Amelia on a dock, facing away from the camera. Next to her is a man who looks like Fred Noonan. Skeptics point out the photo predates 1937. But believers argue the Japanese government suppressed evidence. Was Earhart seen as a spy? Could she have died in Japanese custody? The trail is tantalizing but incomplete. Perhaps the strangest theory emerged in the 1970s. A woman named Irene Bolam, living in New Jersey, was accused of being Amelia Earhart living under a false identity. A book titled Amelia Earhart Lives launched the theory into public consciousness. Bolam furiously denied the claims, sued the publisher, and the book was pulled from shelves. Most historians and forensic experts have dismissed the theory as fantasy. Still, some conspiracy theorists insist Amelia faked her disappearance to escape fame or for secret intelligence work. It's the least credible theory, but one that reflects the enduring public obsession with her legend. The advancement of oceanographic and forensic technology has breathed new life into the search. Deep-sea drones and satellite imagery have narrowed the search radius. Machine learning is now being applied to sonar scan data, filtering anomalies that may have been overlooked. The Electra, if intact, could still be lying upright on the ocean floor, its aluminum frame corroded but distinguishable. Organizations like Nauticos and Ocean Infinity continue to probe possible crash zones near Howland Island. The sea may not speak, but science is learning how to listen more closely. In the end, the mystery of Amelia Earhart is as much about the world that remembers her as it is about the evidence itself. She is a cultural symbol, a heroine caught between history and myth. Children read about her in school books. Statues stand in her honor. Films portray her as brave, bold, and beautifully elusive. Even in the absence of answers, Amelia remains a fixed point in the sky. Maybe what draws us to her story is not what we lost, but what she still gives us. The reminder that the world is vast, that dreams are worth chasing, and that even when we vanish, we can leave behind light. A woman disappeared, but her voice remains, across islands, across oceans, across time, still whispering, still daring us to fly. The surface of the ocean is deceptive. It dances with sunlight. It reflects the sky. But beneath it, a world of shadows, pressure, silence, and secrets. For nearly 90 years, one of those secrets has remained stubbornly hidden. The final resting place of Amelia Earhart and her aircraft, the Lockheed Electra 10E. In this chapter, we descend into the deep, into the data, and into the dogged efforts of those who refuse to stop searching. The Pacific Ocean is the largest and deepest body of water on Earth. Its depths plunge beyond 36.0 feet, deeper than Mount Everest is tall. The area around Howland Island, where Earhart was last heard from, is remote and perilous. The seafloor is marked by trenches, volcanic ridges, and silt that buries evidence like a shroud. Exploration in this blue desert requires more than determination. It demands millions of dollars, world-class technology, and years of planning. Finding one aircraft in the Pacific is like finding a paperclip in Manhattan, if Manhattan was underwater. Since the 1980s, multiple organizations have launched expeditions to find the Electra. Nauticos, a deep-sea exploration company, focused on a crash-and-sink scenario. They employed high-resolution sonar and towed underwater vehicles capable of scanning vast swaths of ocean floor. Tyre has continued investigating Nikumaroro, leading more than a dozen expeditions to the atoll. Their discoveries include pieces of aircraft aluminum, possible remnants of a navigator's toolkit, and a campsite that may have once sheltered a castaway. Ocean Infinity, a private marine robotics firm, is currently conducting some of the most sophisticated scans of the seabed, using autonomous underwater vehicles capable of operating at depths of up to 6.0 meters. Every expedition brings new clues and deeper questions. Modern searches rely on a symphony of tools. Multi-beam sonar sends out sound waves to map the ocean floor. AUVs, autonomous underwater vehicles, pre-programmed robots that scan for anomalies. ROVs, remotely operated vehicles, camera-equipped robots piloted from a ship. Satellite telemetry helps refine search zones using weather patterns, fuel calculations, and radio signal drift. Machine learning is now being trained to interpret the immense datasets these tools collect, flagging metallic anomalies, wreckage shapes, and human-made structures. The more our tools evolve, the more the ocean gives up its silence. Over the years, many discoveries have stirred excitement, only to disappoint. A sonar blip that resembled a wing turned out to be volcanic rock. A strange shadow on a reef slope proved to be coral. Metallic debris brought to the surface showed no definitive links to the Electra. In 2012, tire divers found what they believed to be landing gear underwater near Nikumaroro. Later analysis was inconclusive. In 2018, deep scans of the ocean floor near the island revealed an anomaly, consistent in shape and size with an aircraft fuselage. But ocean storms delayed any chance of visual confirmation. The ocean is a master illusionist. It plays tricks on those who dare to gaze into its depths. The people behind the searches are not just scientists. They're storytellers, engineers, aviators, dreamers. Robert Ballard, the man who found the Titanic, has pursued the Earhart mystery with scientific rigor. He describes the search as part archaeology, part faith. Rick Gillespie, head of Tyre, has become the public face of the Nikumaroro hypothesis. He continues to rally volunteers, funds, and academic analysis. Their voices, and those of hundreds of searchers across decades, echo with one theme: if we don't look, we'll never know. It's been almost a century since Amelia vanished. And yet the search continues, not just for closure, but for connection. We search because her story matters. Because in a world where technology answers most questions, Amelia Earhart remains one of the few enduring mysteries. Because searching the ocean floor is also about exploring our own longing for discovery, for truth, for the poetry of final answers. Some searches aren't just about what we find. They're about the fact that we keep looking. Beneath miles of water, a mystery sleeps. And above, on ships, in labs, in hearts, we are still listening. One sonar ping at a time. Amelia Earhart may have disappeared in 1937, but her story has never stopped flying. Across continents and generations, her name has become more than history. It has become inspiration. In this final chapter, we rise above the ocean and look toward the skies. We explore the cultural, scientific, and emotional legacy of one woman who turned her wings into a revolution. Her image appears in school textbooks and museum exhibits. Her quotes are etched into classroom walls. Her silhouette is stitched on aviation patches and postage stamps. For girls, Amelia became proof that the sky wasn't the limit. It was just the beginning. In the decades following her disappearance, Earhart has been honored more than perhaps any female aviator in history. Over 30 schools bear her name. Airports, parks, highways, and bridges commemorate her spirit. NASA has cited her as a role model in programs aimed at inspiring young women in STEM. She didn't just fly planes. She flew through barriers. Before Amelia Earhart, aviation was largely a male pursuit. After her, everything changed. She co-founded the 99s, a global organization of women pilots that continues to this day. It has chapters in over 40 countries and supports scholarships, mentorship, and advocacy. Women like Jerry Mock, the first woman to fly solo around the world, and Eileen Collins, the first female space shuttle commander, have all cited Amelia as a guiding light. Every female pilot who sits behind a yoke today flies a little with her. Amelia's image has transcended aviation. She has become a cultural touchstone. She has been portrayed in film by Meg Ryan and Hilary Swank. She's appeared in documentaries, comic books, and video games. In fiction, she's been imagined as a time traveler, a survivor on a lost island, or a secret agent. The truth of her ending may be unknown, but her impact is undeniable. Every era finds a new way to tell her story. The search for Amelia Earhart continues, not just through sonar and science, but through story and soul. Each expedition launched in her name carries the weight of more than a mystery. It carries our need to connect, to understand, to close the circle. Her final flight remains the holy grail of aviation archaeology. But in that search, we found something else, a reflection of our own courage, our own curiosity, our own longing to rise. Maybe what we're really searching for is the piece of us that dares to disappear into the unknown. What do we leave behind? For Amelia, it wasn't just records, not just theories, not even just headlines. She left behind a blueprint for how to live with daring, with determination, and with dignity. She challenged expectations. She broke barriers. She taught us that even failure, even risk, could be noble. Whether her plane lies in the silent depths, or her bones rest on a sun-bleached island, Amelia Earhart has never truly been lost. Because we remember her, because we still search, because we still dream. She did not vanish. She became eternal. We are still on the line, still flying, still listening. Courage is the price that life exacts for granting peace. Amelia Earhart,